Hi, you've just tuned into Body Quest, the program that examines what motivates ordinary people to make a physical change. I'm your host, Sebastian McLean, and in this episode, we'll be meeting a man who's rather familiar to me. In fact, he's my father, Mike McLean of Fredericton, New Brunswick. Now, Dad's a man who's well into his 60s, and yet he still finds time to make exercise a regular part of his day-to-day life. When a lot of people are reaching for a walker, Dad's still reaching for a pair of water skis. Let's take a look now at what keeps Dad ahead of the curve.
Well, I go back to where I hail from, Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. So I did my high school and finished high school '64 in Kitchener-Waterloo. When we came to Tracy, one of the things that we switched into very easily, of course, was the whole camping scene, wilderness camping. Did a lot of winter camping under canvas in the wintertime where the children were very small, preschoolers. They loved that, and of course I've also done a lot of canoe tripping in the summer and the fall. So while we were here, Sebastian often came out into the woods with me when I was lumbering and cutting pulp and cutting logs, and he would measure the logs with a long stick, and I'd cut into the logs, and they'd be hauled out. And so Bass would have many days where he'd come out and just sit by a fire with us, and lunch at 10 and 2. That's the way they did in those days when you were cutting pulp and cutting logs. And I started going to the gym and training, not with any intention of competing, but just to have some fellowship and camaraderie with my son. He began to understand aspects of it that I didn't really have a lot of interest in, i.e. diet. And because I can remember saying to him one time, Sebastian, what do you have to do in order to be able to see your abs at my age? And he made a rather interesting comment. He said, well, Dad, you probably have better abs than I do. It's just that you can't see them because there's fat on them, and you've got to get that fat off.
I came in 72, and met my husband the very day that I arrived here. I saw Mike where I had been working in the ballet. Because I wasn't used to working with amateurs and teaching. I was not a teacher. I was more, I'd done choreography and different things, but I was going to have to help people to dance who didn't know about dancing that much. But little did I know that 2 years later we would be married. So it was hard to find time to get married, actually. But 2 years later, in '74, we got married. And that's after we'd done a tour with the company, 63 of us, singers and musicians and dancers. And so now we have 3 children, and it's wonderful, 2 grandchildren. When we lived in the country, in Tracy, we used to get fish brought up from the sea, fresh, and we'd freeze it right away and live on, what was it, mackerel. And we had a garden. Mike was a wonderful gardener, and so we had fresh vegetables quite often in the summer. In the calving time, you know, and the animals were giving birth, and this one little calf was out there in the freezing cold. He was practically dead. I mean, he looked like he was quite frozen. And we brought him inside. Mike brought him in, and anyway, we kept him, and he sort of came to his feet, wobbled to his feet, and he went under the table to nurse from his mom, and he must have thought the table was his mother. He went under there, was butting underneath the table.
So we bottled him.
And so we got a bottle for him, yeah. Big, special bottle. And in the end, of course, we couldn't possibly take him for our dinner table because he'd been our pet. The work that I do now, I work with Mike in the office. I'm sitting at a desk most of the time. I don't do dancing except privately here if I feel like it. Working in the office, writing all day long on pieces of paper, and helping out wherever I can with Mike. so that he doesn't have too much of a load in the office.
I started at Heritage Memorials back in 2001, April 1st, so it's coming up almost 6 years. And interesting enough, it wasn't work I had thought I'd be even considered any time in my life. Service was the area I was much more interested in, just making people feel comfortable working with people, because I enjoy the social aspect of the business. And interesting enough, I was hired on that basis, and have surprised myself over the 6 years that I've been here, that never would I have thought that this was the kind of work I would have ever adjusted so nicely to and enjoyed so much. Well, interesting, when Ann and I used to come into work every day across that bridge on Westmoreland Street coming across the river, she would kind of hear me boringly say just about every day, I just wish there was a way that I could access this river. And one day when I was in the office, I called up a company in Guelph, Ontario that made these trailers that you could pull apart very quickly, collapse, and you could set a canoe on it, hook it up to your bike, and pull your canoe on the trailer behind the bike, which was exactly ideal for me, because I would leave about 10 after 7 in the morning, bike for about a half an hour with my canoe, get to the riverside where I needed to put in, take the front wheel off the bike, which came off very quickly, collapse the trailer, put it all in the canoe, paddle for another half hour, and then bike the rest of the way to work. So I would arrive here about 20 to 9, quarter to 9 in the mornings, and pull everything together, pop in, ready for my day. So I thought, what a wonderful way to combine the recreation, the kinds of things that I really enjoy doing, with the routine workday. Because prior to that, I was just dreaming and wishing that there would be more time to access that river. Now I had an opportunity to do it and work at the same time. And I started going to the gym and training, not with any intention of competing, but just to have some fellowship and camaraderie with my son. And that was a wonderful way just to build a relationship and enjoy each other. As I have to tailor-make my programs now because of my knees, a lot of people, because of my condition, probably would just not bother doing any of these things. I find that it's wonderful to be able to rise to the challenge and do this. For example, I did my first bodybuilding competition at 60 years of age, whereas a lot of people would think they wouldn't even attempt to do it maybe at 30 or 40. And I had never been a bodybuilder per se. I'd always been in the gym, because I felt that exercise in the gym was just a good supplement to the kind of recreation and sport that you're into. And my feeling was just to go to the gym for the sake of going to the gym and getting into shape. Although there's nothing wrong with that, and it's healthy to get into that routine. It's much better to use it to serve a recreational activity or a sport that you like, so that you can keep strong and flexible and limber for a long time. So the gym can work in concert with the sports that you really like. But if you make the gym the goal, personally I believe that you're missing something. I believe that the gym should be there to supplement the greater thing, which is the activity or the sport or the event that you're training for.